Welcome back to Case Closed, Anime Review, episode number 6. Yeah, the last video I did for this series I had to do a second time because, well, there was no audio. So, yeah, I made sure for a fact there's no problem with the audio. The mic is turned on and it's plugged in, so hopefully there won't be any problems. Okay, now to talk about this season I wrapped up just today. Yes, it took me a freaking long time to get the season done. Yeah, I'm thinking about that. It took me like almost a week to get this done because I kept getting interrupted, and the fact that on this past Thursday I got home late from work. I got home like after I got home like roughly like a little after 7 o'clock. Like I didn't get home to almost 8 o'clock that night, so I wasn't able to. I only did like one episode that night, so I finally finished up today. So there's that. Now, this season lasted for roughly 28 episodes. 28. And this adapted chapters 200 to 224 and 231 to 233. I forgot to mention this in my last video because, well, I mentioned this the first time when I recorded at my recorded season, my review for season 5. I'm just answering somebody on Discord. Alright. Yeah. And in the case of this particular season, not a lot of filler episodes this one. No, not many. Yeah, these are the filler episodes. Now, the season started up. The first episode was 135. The last episode was 162. Of these episodes, guess which ones were filler? And these filler episodes were filler for this particular season. We have the opening episode, which was filler. Also 140, 143, 148 to 152, 155, and 158 to 161, and that was it. These were the only filler episodes. Not many for 28 episodes. That's roughly like 1, 2, 3, plus 5. That's 8, plus 4. That's roughly 12 episodes. Roughly half this season was filler. Yep. The first episode, I actually thought was quite interesting, involving a barber, and the murder weapon was something I usually like. The previous season involved a needle. This one involved a coat hanger. Yes, a coat hanger was involved as a murder weapon. I'm like, really? A coat hanger? Not a rope? Not someone's bare hands? A coat hanger! Oh yeah, and the woman who strangled this other woman, strangled with a coat hanger. The most unusual murder weapon I've ever seen. I've heard of strangulations before in fiction, but man, a coat hanger. That is quite original, and this was a filler episode, mind you. Oh, and by the way, where did they find this coat hanger after the murder? They found it at a crow's nest of all things because they love shiny things. So they probably thought this blue coat hanger would look perfect for it. As for the person who killed this particular... Now, the person who was killed... The reason why she was killed because she was the assistant to a woman who cut the hair. This woman cut the hair of Amy's hair for years, and she was going to go through a haircut like that particular weekend, and the junior detective go visit her, and they find her dead body. Yep. So, yeah, and the person who murdered her was her former boss, and the reason why she murdered her, like her boss, which is a woman, why she murdered her former assistant, was because she was leaving her to take another job. I'm like, that's the reason why he killed her? Yeah. A lot of the time, whenever these people kill each other in this show, they do the absolute stupidest reasons. Like, yeah, like, really? That's the reason why. I've heard other stupid reasons like steal a boyfriend, a title, yes, a freaking swim title, and that's the reason why one swimmer killed another over a damn title. Yes. The Able Cast, this one was actually a canon episode. This one was actually quite interesting. Yeah, this one actually is adapted from the manga. And the way, this is technically no murder. This one, apparently murder happened well before the events of this episode. Where this old lady got killed by this other person who we think is an old lady. Yeah, but it turns out it was actually a maid. Which, you're thinking, okay, she had plastic surgery, but she had plastic surgery to look like an old woman. I'm like, why? Heck, even in the manga when I was reading this, like, why did she do this for? So she get the treasure, and there was no treasure. So she basically did all this for this two-part for absolute reason. But I love the puzzle stuff in here, and I thought it was interesting about a lot that like most of the characters just disappeared. Like the other one left was probably Amy. She was the only one who was left because everyone else was either captured or simply taken. Interesting little two-part. We have another two-part. It was a final screening murder case. This one is adapted from the manga. Yes. Yeah, this one was a two-parter. And get this. Okay, the murder is this. The victim is a real estate agent who wanted to demolish a theater. How this guy was killed? With a hangman noose. One of two times this whole season someone was actually killed with a hangman's noose. And it's assumed it might be suicide, but the way it was done was quite bizarre. And it turns out the person who did this was the one person who actually definitely pulled it off, and that was the man who ran the projector, this big, bulky guy. He was the only person who could do it, and yes, they did prove that he definitely did do it. And this is also the second time Dr. Arizawa, the scientist guy who made all may have Kudo's gadgets, yeah, Jimmy just uses his voice, just have the guy lip sync whatever he says, and that apparently is how he was able to do this deductive reasoning. It's a quite interesting one, and the fact that they're able to see a Gamera film, which is quite nice. And here's the thing. The reason why he killed him, okay, I can kind of believe the reason why he killed him, because he wanted to sell this place off for dirt cheap. And apparently, he was going to buy it, but apparently he didn't have money to pay for this damn thing. Yeah. And it was going to be demolished anyways. Yeah. Then we have a filler episode, mind you. Yes, a filler episode involving, now this one is about murder at all. Yeah, Amy is taken captive when she's basically sent from school because she's sick, and she has to be rescued by Conan and the boys, and of course Anita, when she's held hostage by a burglar. And this is actually the second time in the series where she's taken hostage. And they assume this is actually the one they read in the papers, but nope, it really isn't him at all. Though he is arrested probably for false imprisonment for taking her hostage. And the fact it looked like he was definitely going to kill her. This week later on, he said, yeah, he was like really going to kill her anyways. And the way they stopped him was quite funny. They stopped him with a fire extinguisher, which I thought was so funny. Yes. And the fact they were able to find out exactly that she was being held hostage via her junior detective badge, even though it says DB on it. But yeah. Yeah. And then we have the night before the Lock wedding murder case. Yeah, this one is the return of Harley, who visits Tokyo. Oh, he does return a little bit later on. Yeah, he brings his childhood sweetheart, and they solve a murder, and the murder victim is a butler, and he's actually, his title is the head steward. And the reason why he got killed was because he wanted to stop an arranged marriage between his employer's son and this woman. And it turns out the reason why he tried to do this was because the same thing happened to him, where the woman he loved was forced to an arranged marriage. And despite the fact that, from what I can tell, he treated her properly, but she did not marry the man she loved, so he didn't want this girl to face the same mistake that he did. And the guy was kind of like an uncle to this guy, and turns out, yeah, he killed him. Now, do I call this a stupid reason to kill him? Not really, no. It is kind of a dumb reason, but it kind of makes sense. He wanted to stop a wedding, and but at least he had a good reason to do it. Like a lot of the time, a lot of the victims, usually are EU people, are like despicable, and this guy was nothing like that. He's one of the very few times where the person is actually quite nice. Yeah. It was actually a pretty good two-parter. Next comes the whole thing with a train. Yeah. One of like 2 times this whole entire season where you have a murder happen on a train. Though this one also involved the return of Jimmy's mother, who posed as another woman. And what in the heck is now? When I'm looking at this in the anime, and look at these cars, these compartments. These are arranged so bizarrely. Now, I've seen trains in fiction. Usually they're like big rooms and like a single story. This one's like tiny rooms and there's like a second story for like no reason at all. And they get like these small side rooms. I'm like, seriously? This is the rooms they came up with for this one? Yeah, I get the fact Japan has sort of population, but man, not even trains over here have this problem. Heck, the trains, if you see, if anybody's ever watched Ace Attorney, they have 3 parts set on the train, and the compartments on the car were actually pretty average size. Yes. Everything else, like, you have this one, like, you have 2 up in this side thing, and it's a very cramped hallway. How can they even move around there? And it turns out the person who killed this particular person was somebody they kind of suspect anyways, but yeah, it was really weird. Yeah. Now there's a couple of these particular things this season. This is the start of the Metropolitan Police love story. Yeah, there are 2 of them this whole season, and they're both really, really good. I thoroughly enjoyed watching these things. Yeah. Because you had this character named, what's his name here? You have Saito, who was a woman, and you have this other guy, I think his name is Tagashi, and he's in love with her, and it takes a while for her to realize that he has feelings for her, and this one was quite unique. See, they have invited, because what happened with the whole Blue Castle case, to give a statement. I'm like, what the heck took so long to do a statement? And eventually it evolved like a murder. Conan tags along. And here's the thing. Detective Saito has a lot of respect for Conan because of how intelligent he is. And and the fact he's able to solve this murder case. And I thought it was so adorable. And the fact they even brought back, of all things, the inspector. Yeah, they brought back the inspector. Not the inspector, the supervisor from that 2-part wedding episode. Yeah, it's been a few years, but it's been a few seasons. But yeah, I see it again. Great to see the guy, though this is the first time I did not hear his dub actor. I don't know who voiced him, but I kind of did enjoy his voice actor. It comes back toward the very end. I thought it was so adorable that Saito picked him up and says, like, she's able to solve the case because his little boy had to find everything. And the murderer basically killed his wife because I think she was blackmailing him. Yeah. And the way he did it was actually quite interesting. One of the most unique ways. Now, this would definitely be a stabbing. And apparently he set this up early on, so he's able to have a good alibi. So she got killed via the bookshelf, toppling over at a certain point when this string is wrapped around this aerobic bike, and it's rolling up, and the bookshelf toppled over, and the knife went in her back sideways. And Conan pointed this out that normally when it's shown basically when someone's stabs, the knife is held like this with the blade out like this. But this one was held sideways. And they assumed, oh yeah, maybe he's swinging on her side. Nope, he would have seen her. And it turns out the bookshelf, and the husband basically, detectives go upstairs while he goes to the bookshelf back up with all the books on it. Yeah. But they were able to find this stuff pretty easily. This is actually, here's something unique about this season. There's a lot of the time this season where Richard Moore no-shows an episode. He's not even mentioned. Not even Rachel shows up a lot of the time. This was a quite unique one. I really enjoyed this one. The following one involved, get this. Okay. You have Saito and Takashi chasing a criminal, which they run into the junior detective league when they're practicing a play, and the guy briefly takes Amy hostage, lets the little girl go, and instead they reveal the reason why he was running because basically his daughter's wedding the next day. Yeah, and Saito's able to corner him in the bathroom, basically give him a judo chop and judo throw to the bathroom, and apparently she handcuffed him, but she ended up being trapped there behind a pole, just by pure goof. And they had to find the murderer by noon tomorrow. Like, couldn't figure out what the heck was going on with all the new stuff. And mentioned the whole thing of explosion. And it turns out the museum was being demolished for this new explosive that Dr. Rosales came up with. They found the murderer. Yeah, the real one. And the way the police department handled these detectives not calling in, it's like Inspector McGuire overreacted to nothing and has sent half the police department to find 2 detectives. You have SWAT team, you have cops on bicycles, motorcycles, a freaking tank, just for look for 2 people. It's like he was overdoing it. And eventually they were able to stop the explosion, but it was by far the most hilarious thing apart the whole thing. And it was revealed that the reason why Saito has sort of an affection for Inspector McGuire because she looks up to him like a father figure. Okay, I can believe that. Of course, this relationship does continue much more later down the line. Though the thing is, the next love story won't be until season 8 because season 7 doesn't have one. But this was fantastic. I love this thing. The beginning was a fantastic little multi-parter. Then you have the sudden streetcar stopping case. Yeah. This one was another one where they had a murder happen on a train. One of like several. Yeah. That was the thing with this season. It seems like you have 3 times this season we have a murder happen on a train. This one was even though it's a tram car, it goes on train tracks. So yeah, it's quite unique. Yep. And the person who killed this guy, was actually one of the friends. And the way they killed him was like, okay, and it turns out it was not the guy it was actually one of the women who killed the guy. Yeah. One that was looking. Yeah. Bungee jump one. Yeah, this one was quite bizarre. The reason why the guy killed the victim was because he thought they were gonna have to play Masked Yaiba. That's the reason why. Yeah, a really stupid reason. Yeah, I do count this as a stupid reason. It was an okay episode. Truth of the Exploding Car. Yeah, this one they kind of solved this one in a part 1, but there was still more to it. And it turns out the potential victim knew about this thing she had to turn herself in. And it turns out the woman was actually a student of Richard Moore, which I found quite interesting. The old man disappears thing. Yeah. Yeah, it turns out this old man they were looking for and somehow Rachel recognized him, and it turns out this guy was actually a regular coffee shop they went to, and this special disc thereafter had this info about insider trading. Eventually, the people were taken down. No one dies in this one, which is quite surprising. The Dangerous Summer story. This was quite interesting. Yeah, where get this, Serena takes Rachel and Conan to the beach. And Serena does something quite unusual. She takes a picture of Rachel adjusting her bikini bottom. Basically, take a picture of her rear end. Yeah, and says she's going to show it to Jimmy whenever he does come back. And later when she develops the pictures, she's like, don't worry, that picture's not there in those pictures. Yeah. And then she talked about the serial killer. Oh yeah, and get this, she meets her future boyfriend in this particular 2-parter. Who turns out to be the son of an actual inn owner. Quite interesting. So, yeah, because her family is rich, so his father is a businessman too, so why the heck not? And it turns out Rage recognized him because he competed at karate. He recognized him from a karate competition, and he recognized Serena because she cheered Rachel on at one of the karate competitions he was at. Yeah, and the person who actually was this serial killer was actually the guy she had an attraction to all along. Yeah, and the reason why he was killing all these women? Because he had a brunette girlfriend who dumped him. That's the reason why. Yeah. Key in the water thing, this is actually one of the few times where Conan, despite Richard Moore being there, he's able to prove who the murderer is pretty easily without having knock out Richard Moore. Yeah, it turns out it was the medical student who examined his body who was also drunk after killing him. Yeah, and the reason why he killed him because he had remorse and basically backed up a plan to steal medical supplies. That's the reason why I killed him. Okay, that's actually a pretty believable reason why. Yeah. And we have another, and the third and last one that actually has a murder happen on a train. Yeah, and the reason why that this person got killed with a poison needle. Second time in the series, used a needle to kill somebody. This time in the ear instead of in the back. And it was one of these poison needles. And the reason why this other woman killed her, the reason, because she stole her boyfriend. Yeah, second time in the series, we have a woman kill another woman because they stole her boyfriend. That's the reason why. And these people work at an ad agency. Okay. And killed on Sunday where apparently nobody travels the train much that day. It's an odd case. Now, here's something I should point out that when I was watching this, The Bizarre Legend of the Five-Star Pagoda. This one I had to go to like 3 different sites to get the right subtitles because the site I was using, apparently they were addressing characters by the wrong names. Like Conan, they wouldn't address the name at all in the sub, apparently they forgot. And the victim, they changed his name for some reason. And apparently Richard Moore, you know, it's got Maury in the sub. It's like there's a few spaces. I'm like, really? That's not his name. Yeah, I didn't care for this particular thing, so I had to go for like 3 different sites to find a good subtitle thing. They actually they actually address these characters by their appropriate names in the sub. So yeah, I had to go with like 3 different sites in order to. I'm not gonna say what sites they are, but I had to go to 3 sites in order to get this correct. I eventually found this site, and I'm sticking with this site for pretty much the rest of the series, unless of course that the subtitle thing changes again. Yeah, and the murder victim was this rich guy, and he says he was not going to demolish. And the reason why this guy was killed because they were under the assumption that this place is going to be demolished for a theme park, and he says he didn't want to do that. He wanted to turn into like some sightseeing attraction where there was some money go to the temple, and the person who killed the guy was actually his assistant, who was actually the bank manager. And the way he killed him is quite unique. Actually, this is actually the second time this season where they used a hangman's noose to kill somebody. And it was quite unique. Okay, apparently he had tied a portion of this rope to a steel girder and lighted on top of his 5-star pagoda. Like, put it around his neck and then pulled him up 5 stories. And eventually he got up there, he cut it. And of course the rope just went straight down the well, and he tied it up. Apparently this could also be done by 4 people, but easily be done by 1 person. It was quite an interesting, unique way to kill somebody. Yeah, of course there was a curse in the place because 2 of the people died at the place via hanging. But they managed to use it as a ruse, just as a way to kill this guy. As for the reason why he killed him, tax evasion. Yeah, he wanted to participate in tax evasion. That's the reason why that he actually killed him. Yeah. He didn't want to do it, so he killed the guy. Yep. Now, the final episodes are actually quite unique. First one is happening at a restaurant. Yeah, this was actually the last of the filler episodes of the season. Yeah, and it turns out the guy who actually killed this victim was, believe it or not, a skinny old professor, and he killed him with a knife. Of course, I can kind of believe this. Though he hit on a boat, this gigantic. Apparently, this restaurant. Apparently, people order food and it's transported via this small little remote control boat that goes around this water on these buildings. That's quite unique. And the way he was able to get to this other room was by hiding underneath the floorboards of his boat, and then he kills the guy, gets back in the boat, and then he gets back to his room, and then he sends the boat back. Yeah, and he was able to. The reason why Conan was able to find, well, via Richard Moore, find out this was the guy who killed this guy was because of the soy sauce on his elbow. That's the reason why. It was not because there was water there. No, because of the soy sauce. Yep. And the reason why he killed him was blackmailing him due to the fact he was taking student thesis and put his name on it. That's the reason why, because he found out about it. He was blackmailing him, and he wanted 5 million yen for it. The total. Okay, I can kind of believe that. The last episode, believe it or not, is an hour-long episode involving the first time that Jimmy Kudo solved a murder case, and was on a plane of all things. At least it was on a train, and this took place like 1 year before the start of the series. And they would find out. Now, one thing I thought was really kind of weird with this episode, heck, this is like even kind of weird in the manga as well, where you had this one particular character, which his name is Edward, and apparently it's implied he only speaks English, but he also speaks Japanese. The way they did this show was quite weird, where they had both Jimmy and Edward speak English in the sub. Yeah, they speak like a few lines, and eventually the guy does reveal he does speak Japanese. Of course, they're all shocked, just like in the manga. And the way that McGuire does everything in this particular episode, it's exactly the way it was in the manga. But it's an interesting way to end the season this way. And this is all basically a flashback. Told about Rachel while she's asleep. And the way they found out who actually killed this person, this plane, was via wire in a woman's bra. Now, I'm no expert on women's bras, okay? So, I don't know if this was true back in the 90s. This was the thing where they put metal wires inside of bras like this. I have no idea. I'm not going to ask. And I do agree with Jimmy. This is basically a very embarrassing thing to ask if a bra has metal wire in it. And the way she killed him is apparently she was able to get sharp enough to stab this guy in the back of the head while also scratching the back of it. And the reason why she killed him, I believe the reason why he killed him, because apparently he started the fire that killed her brother. So she wanted vengeance, making it the second time in the series where you have one person kill another via something that happened years prior to the events of the series. The other time was via this other guy who kidnapped this little boy and eventually killed him, but the case was sorted out due to the fact it was a child testimony. I'm like, really? You could have not proved it? No? Yeah. And apparently the guy was laughing at it, and apparently he just had no problem with the fact he actually started a freaking fire. Yeah. That's the reason why. It apparently took more than one fight. It took a whole boatload of that, even before the fire even started. Yeah. And that's the reason why she killed him. And you heard this character, Edward, actually, the reason why he was meeting him was so he can buy the stuff from him. But, and of course, and it's all over, also, there's also a ruse, a red herring, over negatives of a congressman's dirty photos. And the negatives were destroyed, and they only found one piece of them after having the rest of them. They were flushed in the toilet. Never seen them again. That was implied that was the motive, but that was not really it. I kind of believe, but yeah, this was a really interesting one. This is actually the first time, this is actually one of the few times in the series, it's actually the only time in the series where you have Richard Moore and Inspector McGuire show up in the episode and they share no scenes together. Yeah, this is the first time this has ever happened. Even the manga, this is quite unusual, but yeah, this is a flashback, but it's quite unique and it's actually really good. So, yeah, not much to say about this particular season. It was actually really good. But it's interesting, like exactly like half the season was filler. Yeah, so that's really it for this particular review. I have 2 more reviews left to go today. That's a review of Black Clover and Fairy Tail. Expect to see those later on today, okay? But to see you next review. Bye.